All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Land of Chem. I am your host and the author. My name is Jeffrey Drum. Thank you all so much for joining me again. All right, everyone, welcome back. This is episode 64, and in today's episode, we are going to explore the spectacular Giza Valley Temple and Sphinx, which are two areas that I have not yet discussed here on the channel. So thus far, I have explained the function of the internal reaction chambers of the Egyptian pyramids as related to the production of chemicals. However, this is not the only function of these structures, and the pyramids themselves are just one part of an entire system, of which all components had specific functions. So recall that the title of this year's 2022 trip to Egypt was the Ancient Alchemy and Ascension Research Expedition. So for the past 2 years, I have been discussing the alchemy and chemistry element of this duality, and now I will be presenting the foundations of what is to come as we begin to investigate the mysteries of this ancient ascension process. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Land of Chem here on YouTube. Click that little notification button so that you do not miss the new videos when they premiere every single week. If you want to help support the channel, just go to thelandofchem.com. You can pick up a limited first edition print copy of the book, grab some Land of Chem merch. Either way, all the orders mean the world to me. Thank you all so much for your support. If you want to follow me on Instagram, my handle is @thelandofchem. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that is it for the intro. So without further ado, let's get right to it. All right, everyone, here we go with tonight's episode. So remember from our previous discussions that during the time when the pyramids were in operation, there was significantly more water and rainfall in the upper eastern Sahara. And even until the relatively modern times, the flooded Nile River would come all the way up to the threshold of the temple. And you can see here in this picture that the Valley Temple, located somewhere over here, would have been directly on the edge of the water. And you will see this reflected in the on-site footage. So one function of these temples and the enclosures around them were to channel this additional water from the flooded Nile River into the underground system beneath the Giza Plateau. So there's an entire network of subterranean shafts and aquifers beneath the plateau that would have been filled with flowing water. And this is a spectacular depiction of the Khafra Valley Temple and the Sphinx Temple that was developed by Harvard University. And they have done an exceptional job showing the red granite at the base of the final pyramid over here, the full granite casing on the first of the 3 pyramids located behind it, which you can see here, and the general usage of the geology reflected in the depiction of this temple. And yes, I will be getting back to this final pyramid of the Giza Plateau and the 3 pyramids behind it, as I have much more to explain about the function of this structure, and there have been a lot of great questions about this area of the Giza Plateau. And all of these images, along with the following diagrams, come from the Harvard University website called Digital Giza, and I highly recommend checking this out, and I will put a link in the video description below, because they are developing 3D images of the entire Giza Plateau, and they have some of the most impressive and detailed diagrams of the pyramid's internal components that I have ever seen. So at this point, I will say, this is exactly why we do not completely throw out traditional academia or archaeology, because this is extremely important basic research that has to be meticulously documented in order for us to better understand these structures. It is not the fault of the original pyramid explorers that they were not chemical engineers, nor is it their fault that producing chemicals on an industrial scale did not even exist as a concept at that time. So they were doing the best they could with the knowledge that they had at the time. And still today, we are using the diagrams and measurements that were taken by these early archaeologists, but now we are applying our modern understanding of physics and chemistry in an attempt to reverse engineer these structures to determine how they could have operated. So once again, shout out to Harvard University for doing this spectacular work, and please check out their website, Digital Giza. I will put a link in the video description below if you are interested in researching the pyramids. All right, now on to the configuration of the Khafra Valley Temple, the Sphinx Temple, and the Sphinx Enclosure, which are actually 3 separate areas. So here on the left is the Valley Temple of the Giza Plateau, otherwise known as the Khafra Valley Temple, and this is the area that we will be exploring today. Here on the right, this is the Sphinx Temple, and directly behind it is the Sphinx Enclosure. And both of these areas are completely closed to the public and only accessible via special permission. So to give you some orientation in the video, we are entering the structure here through this ancient harbor area, walking in through this entrance and going around to the left. And in the video, you will notice that I say they have covered up the quote-unquote wishing well. And there was a pit right here that descended down into the bedrock that people would have thrown their coins into. And now, the more that I think about it, this may have been an actual well shaft, tapping into the water table underneath the structure. We then continue around this corner here and over to the left to investigate this area. These 3 chambers that are completely closed off with a metal gate. Why is this area closed, you might ask? Well, that is a very good question, and there appears to be nothing in there of specific tourist interest. However, as with the 3 ancillary chambers that I showed inside the Pyramid of Winis, those chambers produce an immense amount of acoustic resonance when a sound is generated inside of them. And these 3 chambers are configured in a very similar manner to those of the Pyramid of Winis. We then proceed here into the center of the structure with these amazing red granite pillars, and then we continue out through this area here toward the doorman's room, which is over here on the left, and out towards the Sphinx Enclosure. And I discuss a lot of the potential functionality of this temple as related to the geological interaction with the Earth's electromagnetic energy field in the video. Alright, and quick side story, because you will hear Yusuf and I talking about it in the video. So last year, we get to the Sphinx Enclosure, and there is a huge group of people up there as usual. So we're checking things out, and I start to hear some commotion amongst the group, and I look over and I see this group of guys holding up a piece of crazy looking glass. And the trick at the Sphinx is to use perspective to make it look like tourists are kissing the face or whatever. And I can tell that these guys are trying to do something similar. So I take a look closer and I start inspecting, and I'm like, is that a fucking bong? And sure enough, these guys are trying to position this glass piece to make it look like the Sphinx was taking a giant rip off of the bong. And according to this guy, this is a $10,000 dab rig, and this was his second attempt to bring it to the Giza Plateau. So he brought it all the way to Egypt the previous year, and the guards on the plateau wouldn't let him in. So he took it back the following year, and somehow he got it through. So we all took some pictures and had a good laugh. So now you will know what Yusuf and I are referring to in this video. So now, without further ado, I hope you enjoy. Which I never really get pictures of, except for that guy that had the pipe last time, that glass piece.
Oh, yeah. I remember that. It was the Sphinx.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back here at the Valley Temple of the Giza Plateau. And the walkway that we just ascended would have brought visitors from the Nile River, and you can see the water table would have reached here. We have plants growing, which means they're connected into the water underneath the plateau. But this is where the river would have reached, the threshold of the temple. And we are going to take a journey inside the magnificent Valley Temple. The paving stones inside of this structure are absolutely exceptional. More of that.
In and out. This entire walls were encased with the granite all the way to the top.
Yep.
And these famous pieces, the arched pieces that we see
over there
around the temple, this used to be something like the cornice of the whole temple, to give that famous Egyptian design, which we believe it also could have acoustic properties. And some of the blocks of granite reach until 60 to 70 tons, while the limestone blocks, they can also reach until 130 tons per block.
And this is the same configuration that we've discussed at the other sites, the layering of the geology. And as we go into the threshold of the temple, we'll see more of that white calcite. And do you want to take a walk to that thing?
Where?
The drain? And then we'll come back in? Oh, okay.
So we will see.
So here, beautiful red granite. Limestone core. Is it cool to record in here?
Huh?
Is this cool?
Cool. Awesome. No.
And as everyone points out here in the Mortuary Temple, there are some fantastic examples of the polygonal masonry and the exceptional stonework that went into building this monument is unbelievable. And crossing from the red granite threshold into the white calcite crystal. And they've covered up the wishing well.
So as we can see that this entire granite used to be as smooth as glass. But then for some reason, one of the layers flaked. That's why we feel this rough surface here. But it was not originally like that. It was originally super smooth, like the surface of the granite box inside the pyramid or any other thing.
And you can see the spectacular colors of the white calcite.
Like the pyramid, how it was built. Once they placed the first force of the storm, they would stop to build.
All right, everyone, just a quick reminder that if you want to help support the channel, just check out thelandofchem.com. I've got awesome new hoodies, long sleeve shirts, the Land of Chem t-shirts in the new 5th degree logo, and of course the OG 2nd degree logo designed by yours truly, and of course the genesis for the entire Land of Chem YouTube channel, my book, The Land of Chem, an initiation into ancient chemistry through the degrees of the Egyptian pyramids. So if you want to help support the channel, just check out the website. You can grab a hoodie, a t-shirt, a limited first edition print copy of the book. Either way, all of the orders mean more to me than words can possibly ever describe. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. And I think we're back. Yeah, we're recording. Just wanted to point out this unusual piece here. It's either black granite, black granite.
As we can see, there are different types. The geologic order of this one is different, this is different, and this is different than that. It is the quality that matters, not the color, of course. And the intensity of this one right here saved it from flaking like this one. So you can take this one as a measure for the rest of the entire wall. Used to be in the same level. When we look at the pillars, of course, in the middle pyramid complex here we have 40 pillars according to the archaeological records. 24 used to be in the so-called mortuary temple and 16 down there. When we look at some of the ones that is around us in the blocks, again and again, we will see the original condition that the stones were brought in. So we know that smoothing happened after it was constructed. Would that include the tubular dreads, such as the ones we see over here? Because the finishing and smoothing all the temple happened after constructing, that will include creating these hinges of the doors, because the block will originally be constructed in a rough state, like what we see of the unfinished parts of the blocks and of the pillars. If this is the case, then it would be hard to imagine the copper tube drill with the sand powder, because now I need to have this while that piece is already up there. And the bow drill and the powder is not going to be functional. Right. So all the evidence we see shows that the stone was constructed roughly. It was finished big time after it was constructed. Look at this edge here.
Yep.
So this amount of material was removed from the stone after they put the pillar.
And just look at these spectacular examples of this white calcite crystal Again, when the white calcite crystal is interacting with the electromagnetic energy field from that machine, the white crystal is absorbing that energy.
He's good man, no?
Yes, yes, oh yeah. Sometimes. He's all right, yeah. And I really personally love being in this Valley Temple. There's a sense of calm and peace, and it's really quite spectacular to be in the presence of this particular monument. Even when there's a bunch of people in here, it's just...
Look at the pigeons up here.
It's so beautiful.
Look at it. These creatures will only gather in the harmonious, peaceful.
And one of my favorite mental exercises, as always, is envisioning this temple in its original finished and polished condition. And when you walked in here, this granite would have been gleaming with shining quartz. The polished calcite crystal floor just shining iridescent white. I can't even imagine how spectacular it would be to be received in this temple. And again, we're here in Egypt investigating the mysteries of ancient alchemy and ascension. So these temples, I won't reveal the big secret yet, but these are integrated as a functional part of the entire pyramid complex system. And alchemy is just the first part, ladies and gentlemen. And we are going to proceed through the passageway into the Valley Temple and enclosure of the Sphinx. Thank you, sir. And you can see another piece of that calcite crystal leading into the red granite.
There is a huge deposit of calcite crystal. These, if you sneak your camera through here, these huge blocks in the back is nothing but huge blocks of white calcite crystal, and the ceiling and the foundation under it is the Aswanian granite. The official books, they call this the doorman's room. I don't know where they got that label from. Definitely they're missing out on something.
But this is very interesting what Yusuf just said, the doorman's room. So there's another friend of mine who's a researcher about the ancient portals and dimensional gates. So the doorman, right, the keeper of the portal.
Yeah.
So very interesting stuff. Regardless from which aspect you choose to analyze these structures, there will always be more to learn. And this is one of the reasons I'm so passionate about studying the Egyptian pyramids, because there's so many layers of academia to unravel here. Geology, mathematics, physics, chemistry, astrology. Every science that you could possibly imagine has been integrated into the construction of these monuments.
And all in one.
So we are looking at evidence of the cumulative knowledge of this ancient civilization having been encoded in these structures. An absolutely spectacular demonstration of the capabilities of this civilization. And once the passageway clears out, we're going to head up that way toward the Sphinx. Stay tuned. All right, now on to the Sphinx Enclosure. So I vividly remember being here, looking at the Sphinx, and recording a whole segment discussing this well or pump shaft, which you can see here, and examining the erosion around the sides of the enclosure. However, in preparation for this video, I discovered that that footage has somehow been lost to the sands of time. Or perhaps we were just talking about it and I wasn't actually recording. But either way, let's talk about it now. So I have proposed that the Sphinx Enclosure was originally a large reservoir that was used to pump water into the subterranean shaft system beneath the Giza Plateau, and the repurposing of this natural geological feature, turning it into a sphinx, occurred during the dynastic era, and there have been many researchers that have also proposed a similar explanation of this enclosure, and that the enclosure itself existed long before the actual sphinx was created. And of course, I hope you all are familiar with the work of Dr. Robert Schoch, who has been studying the significant erosion around this enclosure, which, according to these geologists, appears to be water erosion, as depicted here on the bottom left. And here is an exceptional distinction to use when analyzing these erosion patterns, which is the difference between horizontal erosion, which you can see here on the right, which is caused by wind, and the vertical erosion patterns, which you can see here on the left, that are caused by rainfall. And as we discussed in the previous episode, this once again brings into question the last time there was significant enough rainfall on the plateau to cause this type of vertical erosion from flowing water. And that pushes the date back for the excavation of this area much further than what is suggested by traditional archaeology. And I would tend to agree with this statement. However, I would like to add something directly related to my theory about the function of the Egyptian pyramids. So I have proposed that the Great and Central Pyramid of Giza were producing solutions of sulfuric and hydrochloric acids respectively, and have explained in previous episodes how there may have been an environmental event of some sort that caused these structures to become damaged or inoperational. And you can see here the mural of a red pyramid, with the top being blown off and gas or steam escaping from the inside, with the proverbial flood out front and an ark of animals. And I found this mural in the Mercure Hotel in Luxor, and I discussed this in episode 22. And if you're new to the channel and haven't seen this episode yet, go watch it right after this one. It is absolutely mind-blowing. I will put a link in the video description below. It is called Explosions, the Proverbial Great Flood, and Paranormal Experiences in Egypt. And I will now suggest that perhaps during this catastrophe, there was a release of toxic chemicals into the environment, either in the form of a leak of these acidic solutions onto the plateau, or in the form of acidic rain that was caused by the escaping sulfur dioxides or hydrogen chloride gas into the air. These gases then produced acidic rain, which could have very easily caused this erosion in a very short amount of time. Not in decades or thousands of years, but this could easily happen in a matter of hours or even days, depending on the concentration of the acid rain. And remember how that erosion looked around the eastern temple of the final pyramid from the previous episode. So now, go back and rewatch that episode from the perspective of acid rain, and it will completely change the way you look at these erosion patterns. Finally, onto one more unusual feature of the Giza Valley Temple, this quote-unquote drain, which is found on the south side of the structure. And this stone around here is the original limestone core of the structure, which would have been completely cased in red granite. And this conduit is also made from red granite. However, the block above it, this block here, is made from red quartzite, which is the exact same material that we found in the conduit and collection bowl at Abu Sir. And this feature is located right about here on the back side. And you can see in the picture that it is not at ground level, but rather appears to be coming out from a possible second floor. And I'm very curious where within this structure the original inlet can be found. Because remember, again, that in Abu Sir, these conduits have inlets, and I am guessing that it might be located in one of these closed off areas, either here in this three-tiered chamber here, or perhaps in this quote-unquote doorman's room, or even in a second floor area located here, which is where those pigeons were in the video. And of course, the conventional explanation of this feature is that it is a water drainage channel. Again, where is all of this water coming from that they are so worried about draining from the site? And of course, the termination of this feature is completely broken off. So whatever was back here is now completely gone. So perhaps we are looking again at something that could have been like this, where that conduit may have actually led into a collection bowl. However, any evidence of that is now lost, so this is yet again one of those mysteries of the Egyptian pyramids that will most likely never be solved. But I will be putting all of the pieces together soon, and trust me, it will be worth the wait. And I hope you've been enjoying the ride in the meantime. All right, everyone, that is it for today's video. This was episode 64, The Land of Chem 2022 Ancient Alchemy and Ascension Research Expedition Recap Part 10, covering the Giza Valley Temple and Sphinx. I really hope you enjoyed today's episode, and in the next video, the moment you have all been waiting for, the full expose documentary on the Osiris Shaft, including another chemical analysis of the metallic sealing layer that has been applied to the containers down in that system. Ladies and gentlemen, you do not want to miss this episode, so if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Land of Chem here on YouTube. Click that little notification button so that you do not miss the new episodes when they premiere every single week. If you want to help support the channel, just go to thelandofchem.com. You can pick up a limited first edition print copy of the book. Grab yourself some Land of Chem merch. Either way, all the orders mean the world to me. Thank you all so much for your support. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's the best handle on IG, at the Land of Chem. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that is it for today's episode, so I will see you next time. Yo, are you still watching this? Please subscribe to the Land of Chem here on YouTube and click that little notification button. New videos coming out every single week. And check out this other episode. Come on, do it. Do it now.